Part 76. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 751. He felt that the spirit generated by his soul was purer, his spiritual magnetic field seemed to become stronger, and the integration with his soul became easier. An idea came to his mind, in other words, even a little bit of decay of the soul will affect the spiritual magnetic field and the purity of the soul. At this moment, he felt that his spirit was becoming purer and purer. Countless thoughts were constantly bursting out in his spirit. Flashes of spiritual light emerged, as if he had great vitality. No wonder those older guys always have an inexplicable sense of stiffness in their mental magnetic fields. And it's always difficult to break through the realm of stillness. It turns out that the decay and aging that pervades the soul also have this hidden effect. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Vaguely, he understood the limitations of breaking through the realm. At this time, he looked at Lin Yi and said, "Mr. Lin, we look forward to our next transaction." Lin Yi nodded, "Of course you are welcome. By the way, if you can collect various items that contain spiritual imprints, your longevity will be greatly increased." Hearing this, Shen Wuifang's eyes lit up slightly, and he probably knew what Lin Yi was asking for. After thinking for a while, he took out a jade seal from his arms. This jade seal exudes a wonderful magnetic field. There is a faint resonance with the geomagnetic field on the ground. Lin Yi's eyes fell on the jade seal, and the brilliance of the true meaning of life flashed, and he instantly saw its secret. This is an artifact with 9 spiritual imprints forming the core. These 9 spiritual imprints are different, but they produce the same effect. That's gravity, once activated. It will echo the magnetic field on the ground and produce a huge gravitational force in an instant. Obviously this is something similar to a magic weapon. Looking at this thing, Lin Yi showed a faint smile on his face. The value of this thing is approximately equal to 400 years of life. Do you want to trade it? Shen Wuifang shook his head when he heard the words, "These are called magic weapons in our place, and each one requires a huge price. There are even some magic weapons that were made by practitioners of my level before they died. They put their whole life's cultivation into it and turned it into a magic weapon, leaving it to their descendants to suppress their family or section. Although this jade seal of mine is just a low-grade magic weapon, I got it at a huge cost. Coupled with my own strength, I can exert powerful attack power. Flesh and blood cannot resist the attack of magic weapons. This is a powerful offensive weapon that combines spiritual imprint and material. But I probably know what you want. I have 3 inheritance items in my hand, and they all contain some spiritual imprints of ordinary warriors. It's something I can sell. But I left these things in my hometown. I need to go back and take out all these things. I wonder if you will always be here, Mr. Lin." Lin Yi looked at Shen Wuifang in front of him. This was a very good trading partner. A qualified trader. Thinking of this, a note appeared in his hand. "You can use this to contact me when you have something you need to trade. But remember, you can only come to me when you have trouble. I hate boring interruptions." Of course, Kun Na Wuifang held the note, with strange colors flashing in his eyes. At this time, the door of Wanchai was suddenly lit up. A figure in white clothes walked out of it, his whole body filled with a faint sword intent. Lotus Sword Immortal Li Hualian has returned from his first mission. And his appearance instantly alarmed Shen Wuifang. Shen Wuifang's eyes suddenly looked towards him, and at the same time he saw a completely different world of blue stars outside the door. Click. The door closed, and the world on the other side disappeared from his eyes. But that flash of majestic energy fluctuations frightened him, and his body produced a huge desire to devour it. "What is that?" a trace of surprise flashed in Shen Wuifang's eyes. He had doubts in his mind, but he didn't say it. His eyes were already on Li Hualian. At this time, in the Wanchaiwu house, besides Shen Wuifang, there was also Yamingliu. This is a powerful person with the level of God General who guards Jingguan City. He saw everything that happened just now, but he didn't say a word, not a word, even though his heart was shocked beyond measure. When he saw Li Hualian, the shock on his face could no longer be suppressed. Li Hualian? How is it possible? You should have been dead 2,000 years ago. His face was full of shock and disbelief. He had also had the pleasure to read Li Hualian's sword copybook once. The sword intent was exactly the same as the person in front of him. Not even the faces are any different. A person who has been dead for more than 2,000 years appears in front of him. No one can calm down with this kind of shock. When Shen Wuifang heard this, he was also stunned. There was an incredible expression on his face. She looked at Li Hualian in front of her in a daze. Li Hualian's eyes fell on Yamingliu, and his mind turned, and he knew who he was instantly. His sword calligraphy, anyone who had seen it would leave a trace. After he successfully resurrected, he remembered everyone who had entered the sword calligraphy. And the person in front of him was also one of those who had seen the sword calligraphy. Hello, I'm glad to meet you, I'm Li Hualian. Hello, Mr. Li Hualian. But, how are you still alive? Yamingliu wanted to know what was going on. Li Hualian looked at him with a faint smile on her face. It was Manager Lin who resurrected me, but I have to work for him to pay off my debts. Hearing Li Hualian's words, both Shen Wuifang and Yamingliu were completely shocked. Resurrection from the dead, this is a method they have never heard of. Shen Wuifang came back to his senses from the shock, and he took a deep look at Lin Yi. Once again, he felt the unfathomable depth. The person in front of him was definitely not someone he could think of crookedly. No matter how powerful he becomes, even if he is an old antique in this world. Those who have cultivated to the supreme level and have taken their minds to a new height. They can never revive the dead. And they are reviving a martial arts swordsman who has disappeared for 2,000 years. Yamingliu was shocked beyond words. Everything he saw today has gradually broken his life concept. He turned his eyes to look at Lin Yi. Who are you? How can you do such a thing? The house of everything I created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 752. Update the latest chapter of the Wanchaiwu View I created as soon as possible. This is the method of immortals in mythology. Looking at the two people who were inexplicably shocked, Lin Yi smiled calmly on his face. It's okay, as long as you reach a certain level, you can do it. Resurrecting a dead person is not as difficult as you think. As long as the conditions are right and there are enough things, anyone can do it. Everything is just knowledge that changes destiny. Shen Wuifang looked solemn. Mr. Lin's wisdom and knowledge make me feel insignificant. I have a question I want to ask, and I don't know if you can answer it for me. What do you want to know? If it's not a complicated question, I can help you answer it for free. I wonder where Mr. Li Hualian came back from just now. I feel like the world on the other side is not ours. Lin Yi looked at him, smiled calmly and said. You're right, that's not our world. There is a world with extraordinary power and the possibility of immortality. Gods, immortals, or unknown powerful creatures. Everything that does not exist in this world exists there. What? Are you interested? Lin Yi had a half smile on his face. This world was actually very suitable for him to be his base camp. Because the characteristic of swallowing spirituality will greatly suppress extraordinary power. Even if the martial arts system in this world is developed to its extreme, as long as it is still in this world, the limit of destructive power it can cause cannot reach the level of Earth Immortal Deo. The martial arts system in this world is more about the perfection of one's own spirit and the use of spiritual power. Although you can form your own field to a certain extent and even change reality. But there is always a limit to the scope, which can put the world in an extremely stable state. Even the most powerful people will be restricted here, for the bounty hunter system that Lin Yi will establish in the future. It would be a great place to serve as a headquarters. And to build the system he wanted, naturally he needed a lot of manpower. After all, their ability to rely solely on brandy is limited. So he set his sights on the martial arts masters in this world. The dead lotus sword immortal Li Hualian was one of his directions. The other direction is the forces represented by Shen Wuifang. As long as you make good use of them, you can transform them into your own forces. And in the future, he can also develop people from other worlds as bounty hunters. Shen Wuifang took a deep breath at this time and looked at Lin Yi. He knew that the other party must have a purpose for saying this. But he doesn't care, because he wants to live forever, become a god, and become a being like myths and legends. He did not want to be like the martial arts masters in his hometown who would eventually die if they failed to make the final breakthrough. I am indeed very interested. Shen Wuifang's eyes were calm. So I want to know, if I want to go to those worlds, what will it cost? A smile appeared on Lin Yi's lips. Li Hualian was resurrected by me, and he owes me a lot of contribution points. So he became the bounty hunter of the House of Everything. Repay his debt by completing various tasks undertaken by Wan Chaiwu. If you want to be a bounty hunter, you can go to the unknown. For all future tasks, you can get 30% of the contribution points. Then these contribution points can be exchanged for various things from me. For example, the method of cultivating to become an immortal, various elixirs, magic weapons, life essence crystals, etc. You can also collect the items I want, come to me to exchange contribution points, and then exchange them for what you want. Once you become a bounty hunter, everything here will be clearly marked with a price. There will be more discounts. Listening to Lin Yi's words, Shen Wuifang understood what the other party meant. He closed his eyes slightly and thought for a moment, then opened his eyes and looked at Lin Yi. Manager Lin, I want to become the bounty hunter of Wan Chaiwu. Okay, Lin Yi said calmly. But if you want to become a bounty hunter, you have to sign a contract with me. If you want to accept the mission, you must stay in the master room after 12 o'clock at night. At the same time, at some point in the future, Wan Chaiwu may completely leave this world. You will also leave this world, and it will not be easy to come back again. Can you bear to be away from the world? Hearing Lin Yi's words, Shen Wuifang was stunned. Then there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. He understood the meaning in Lin Yi's words. Wan Chaiwu might not necessarily stay in this world forever. Maybe I will leave this world and go to unknown time and space, which means infinite possibilities. Kun Na Wuifang laughed and said, Store Manager Lin, there is no need to worry at all. If I can live forever, let me see a higher world. Don't talk about leaving this world. Even if I never come back, I won't have any objections. What flashed in Shen Wuifang's eyes was the pursuit of Tao, and he had no nostalgia for worldly family affection at all. Lin Yi nodded slightly when he heard this. If that's the case, then there's no problem. This is a bounty hunter's contract. Take a look before signing. As he spoke, a contract appeared in front of Shen Wuifang. Shen Wuifang looked at the contents of the contract and wrote down his name without hesitation. At this time, Lin Yi's eyes fell on Yamingliu. This person seems to have reached the level of a general. I wonder if you are interested in becoming a bounty hunter. Looking at the faint smile on Lin Yi's face, Yamingliu's heart trembled slightly. He could feel that this would be a dangerous contract to go to other worlds to complete the mission. He had never heard of such a thing. Everything today had broken his common sense and cognition. After a moment of silence, Yamingliu shook his head slowly. For the time being, I have no such plan, nor do I have the ability. He could naturally see the strength of Shen Wuifang and the Lotus Sword Immortal. It was definitely not comparable to him. At least before Shen Wuifang completed a mission. Wait until he figured out what the so-called other world would be like. He might consider becoming a so-called bounty hunter. This was out of caution and also out of suspicion. He is in a high position, and he can't let go of his status for the time being. Shen Wuifang didn't say anything either. This is a personal choice. After seeing so many magical things, he still can't let go of his original worldview. Then it's no one's fault for missing this important opportunity. At this time, the note in his hand has been ignited without wind, turning into a magical power connected to him and Lin Yi. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 753. Shen Wuifang's eyes flashed with a hint of excitement, and he felt that a magical future was opening the door to him. Everything is promising in the future. Lin Yi looked at Shen Wuifang. From now on, you can come every night. If there is a task, you can try to receive it and complete it. A key appeared in Lin Yi's hand. This is the key to any door. You can insert this key into the door of any place in this world. After opening it, you can directly connect to the Wanchaiwu and then come back here. But every time you use it, it will consume 5 contribution points. So be careful when using it. You don't have any contribution points now. Once you use it, it will be an advance payment. It will be deducted from the tasks you complete in the future. The contribution points are managed by Brandy. Shen Wuifang nodded. I understand. I will leave for half a month first. After half a month, I will start to perform tasks. I will go back and bring all the valuable things in my hands and convert them all into contribution points. Lin Yi had a smile on his face. I am very optimistic about you, come on. Looking at the backs of Shen Wuifang and Yamingliu disappearing outside the door, Lin Yi took a deep breath. A good seed. My system will eventually take root and sprout. Spread across countless worlds and earn me a lot of wealth. I am really an evil capitalist. Thinking of this, Lin Yi's face showed a hint of intoxication. It was as if he saw himself sitting on countless treasures, just like the dragon in myths and legends, surrounded by countless treasures. At this time, the door of the Wanchaiwu opened again, and Absinthe walked out with a strange smile on his face. A crystal bead flashing with beautiful light appeared in his hand. He placed the crystal bead in front of Lin Yi. This is the reward for this mission. All the beautiful memories of that little boy. Absinthe had an intoxicated smile on his face. He was very interested in doing such twisted and dark things. Lin Yi put away the thing containing countless negative emotions and memories. He glanced at him and said, go find Brandy to collect your contribution points this time. Each bounty hunter in the Wanchaiwu has a nameplate in his hand, which is a pair of mother and child. The nameplate will specifically record the contribution points of each of them. The numbers on it are the same, and the subcard is mainly convenient for them to check their remaining contribution points at any time. The mother card is convenient for the Wanchaiwu to record. The mother card was hung in a special room on the 2nd floor, guarded by a small team of maze guards. Usually, Brandy was responsible for managing the input and deduction of contribution points. The Wanchaiwu was gradually forming its own system and slowly getting on the right track. Tonight's night passed quickly, and Lin Yi gained a lot of things. There was lifespan, memory, and emotions, as well as talents, and the relics of the gods. However, the relics of the gods had been absorbed by him and transformed into 8 new Dao marks. These 8 Dao marks all represent terror, cruelty, all negativity, and evil. In addition to the original 1 relic of the gods, he already had 9 Dao marks representing evil. At this time, these 9 evil Dao marks and the 9 Dao marks representing Buddhist principles were all incorporated into the same system structure. Completely different principles, under Lin Yi's control, formed a new balance. Every moment, Lin Yi could feel that his spiritual power was constantly growing. In particular, he discovered a wonderful thing. As the Dao marks increased and formed a system, the spiritual wave seemed to resonate with the Dao marks. When the spiritual wave was integrated into the structure of the Dao mark, a wonderful light bloomed from the Dao mark system. This light flashed with a green light, and it seemed that something terrifying was brewing in it. At this time, Lin Yi slowly opened his eyes, and this light shone from his eyes. The light fell directly on a teacup in front of him. Then a very strange scene appeared. The teacup collapsed in an instant and twisted into a weird shape. This was an extremely terrifying scene. Lin Yi was slightly stunned, because he did not expect that his spiritual wave would react with the structural system of the Dao mark, producing such a wonderful destructiveness. His eyes looked at the twisted cup, which looked very strange. It was twisted into a ball like a spiral, but it did not break at all, just like it should be like this naturally. And the most peculiar thing was that dense and strange lines appeared on the originally white cup. This line seemed to have a strange magic. Lin Yi's clone looked at it and felt that his spirit seemed to be affected. There was a feeling of splitting the mind. He felt that there were good thoughts and evil thoughts in his mind at the same time, which were constantly rising. The two thoughts collided fiercely, and his mind seemed to split into two. This was an extremely strange feeling. Lin Yi was shocked and instantly suppressed this reaction in his mind. He raised his hand and gently tapped the twisted cup. Crack! In an instant, the cup was covered with cracks and shattered to the ground. Seeing this scene, Lin Yi showed a trace of thought in his eyes. Dao Hen, it turns out that there is some connection between it and Lingbo. In other words, Dao traces can transform spiritual waves into some kind of power and show it in the real world. Dao traces are like the engine itself, and spiritual waves are like energy, oil, gasoline, and are the power of the engine. So what is the essence of spiritual waves? Suddenly, doubts flashed through his mind again. True destiny is deduced from Dao traces, and I have to speed up the collection of more Dao traces. With a firmer mind to collect Dao traces, Lin Yi looked up at the sky. Suddenly, his pupils shrank slightly, because a blood-colored dark cloud suddenly appeared in the sky of blue star. This blood-colored dark cloud came so suddenly that it covered the distant sky in an instant. Then the endless blood-colored dark clouds began to boil violently. Lightning gathered there, and a radiance like a lightning column fell to the ground. The whole world was shaken at this moment. In this moment, red light filled the entire sky, and countless people noticed this scene. At this time, it was located in the territory of H country, in a huge mountain range in the north. The blood-colored lightning pillar completely enveloped the entire mountain range, and the rampant lightning pillar lasted for a full minute. The mountain range completely disappeared, and what appeared on the ground was a huge red viscous lake. It looked like blood, and the lake was still bubbling with countless bubbles, and waves of hot air spread all around. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 754. Countless black and red smoke in the air evaporated from the lake and spread to the surroundings. But a strange thing happened. All the black and red smoke that left the lake area. Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot. Will melt in an instant, as if something swallowed them all. The huge blood-colored lake covers an area of hundreds of kilometers in radius. The upper half of the entire mountain range completely disappeared, leaving only a deep concave part, and the blood-colored lake is in this concave mountain range. Countless blood-colored dark clouds in the sky always gather and float above this blood-colored lake. However, its range also does not exceed the boundary of this blood-colored lake. It seems that there is some power that isolates this blood-colored lake in this area. This blood-colored lake itself contains an incredible power. This power produces an invisible huge magnetic field, which faintly begins to radiate this magnetic field outward. Once a large number of animals and plants are touched by this magnetic field, unimaginable changes will spread in their bodies. The structure of DNA is rapidly mutating, and their appearance and body shape will also change. They are rapidly becoming bloodthirsty and brutal, impulsive and murderous. Some even grow various strange organs, become bloody, and feel like abnormal creatures. In an instant, all the martial arts masters on Blue Star who have entered the spiritual realm, all feel the evil breath emanating from this lake, which is an evil that seems to distort everything. It seems that everything in the world will be distorted by this breath, and the world will become hell. However, this breath only exists for a few seconds, and then it immediately dies down. Even the huge blood-colored lake seems to be solidified and no longer emits any breath. In the center of the pool of blood, there is a ball of blood and flesh that seems to be made up of countless corpses. In the center of this ball of flesh, there is a human figure without any skin on his body, only muscles. He is blood red all over, as terrifying as a shadow. His face was very solemn, and he felt the horror of the outside world. The power in the sea of blood was constantly being devoured, and he had no way to stop it. What kind of world is this? The essence of my power is being lost. How is it possible? I can't even lock my own power. A trace of fear flashed in his eyes. In countless worlds, he had never encountered such a thing. This phenomenon has completely surpassed his experience and knowledge. At this time, his thoughts have extended to the entire blood-colored lake. Strange red runes appeared one after another, quickly covering every corner of the lake. Then the lake began to shrink at an alarming speed, revealing the sunken pit wall of the mountain range. Finally, a small lake less than 1 kilometer appeared in the center of the deep pit. All the power in the blood-colored lake was drawn into the ball of corpse meat in the center. The blood-colored skinless humanoid had a flash of horror in his eyes. How is it possible? Even the great formation that can connect heaven and earth cannot lock the loss of power. What kind of world is this? Feeling the energy without a trace of activity in the air, he felt cold all over. An unspeakable fear filled his heart. No, I must find the source of energy, otherwise I will be sucked dry by this world sooner or later. In an instant, he had calculated the time when he would be sucked dry by this world. If I leave it alone in the current state, I only have 1 month. Once I use my power on a large scale, this time will be shortened. The power must be contracted, and it cannot continue like this. The blood sea returns to 1, and the blood sea is me. In an instant, the world shrank to a point. The blood color completely disappeared, leaving only a skinless blood shadow, which looked only about 1.5 meters tall. Sure enough, hiding all the power in the body can slow down the consumption and loss of power to a certain extent. The skinless blood shadow looked solemn and looked up at the outside world. A trace of deep solemnity appeared in his eyes. I hope there is life in this world. Otherwise, the end will be bad. The mysterious existence of the blood world, the Blood King. A supreme master of the Tianxian Dao level was involved in this world in an inexplicable world change. In the Wanchaiwu, Lin Yi's eyes showed a hint of surprise. The breadth of the Tianxian Dao level? Interesting. A series of satellites have been aimed at the disappeared mountain range. The upper echelons of various countries were stunned to look at the depression within 100 miles. The extremely dense blood-colored dark clouds in the sky seemed to foreshadow the arrival of some kind of disaster. Especially in H country, this strange change is within its territory. At the first time, the god-level masters guarding this area have been dispatched to investigate. And this is just the beginning. Strange changes have also occurred outside the atmosphere. In the void, the space suddenly fluctuated violently. A thick gray fog appeared here, and a huge tree that was looming appeared in the fog. This giant book is 100 miles long and wide, with its roots rooted in the void. Countless spots of light can be seen on it, which seem to be one wonderful life after another. At this time, the giant tree was floating in the void outside the atmosphere of the blue planet. Under the huge gravitational force, the huge tree was slowly falling towards the blue planet. Countless satellites captured the scene in an instant. Countless alarms sounded again in various countries. At a speed visible to the naked eye, countless people saw that a giant tree fell towards the ocean in the sky. Alarms sounded in cities one after another. Countless TV stations have received the news and started broadcasting this earth-shaking change. In the TV screen, a huge tree in the sky slowly fell under the wrapping of countless gray mists, and the friction with the air formed a fierce flame. But an amazing thing happened. In the flames, it can be seen that the trees were not damaged at all. There were also some strange lights on those trees, flickering in the picture. These lights were attached to the big trees, making the big trees look very strange. At this time, all cities close to the coastline have received notices and started to retreat. Because after this giant tree falls into the ocean, it will inevitably cause a huge tsunami, which will be troublesome. At this time, Xuanhuan city is the most nervous because it has been closed. If the tsunami in the sea rushes here, the blockade will become a joke. Countless mutant corpses will flow in all directions with the tsunami, which is the most terrifying result. These mutant corpses have strong aggressiveness and immortality, and are also contagious. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 755. Once the mutant corpses spread all over the world, what kind of situation will it be? Just thinking about it makes people feel terrified. At the first time, countless information has begun to circulate among the top leaders of various countries. The harmfulness of the mutant corpses has been known to the top leaders of the world. Facing the impending disaster, everyone is terrified, but there is nothing they can do. Facing the power of nature, it is no longer something that can be stopped by individual power. Even if all the power of mankind is too late. Rumble. Under the live broadcast of countless satellite TVs, huge trees fell heavily into the deep sea. A huge wave that was so violent that it was unimaginable slowly spread from the center of the fall to the four sides. The coastlines on one side of the three continents were all covered by this huge wave. At most 1 hour, the first wave of waves will reach the borders of each continent. As if the world is about to end, emotions began to spread in various cities near the sea. No one can stop the power of nature. Lin Yi also saw the scene naturally, and a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. Just now, a celestial being appeared, and now another one has appeared. This big tree is a bit like the ancient tree king in the dark abyss, and it is also a tree series. His brows wrinkled slightly, and a strange look flashed in his eyes. Blue Star seems to be getting weirder and weirder. At this time, the Tiandi Shenshan in the territory of each country was shrouded by a wonderful huge magnetic field. Inside the magnetic field are countless palace communities, located on one peak after another. And these palaces emit a faint magnetic field, which merges with the magnetic field of the entire mountain range. Finally, this huge and boundless magnetic field was constructed, covering the entire Tiandi Shenshan, making it covered in ice and snow and fog all year round. However, there are no humans inside these palaces. If you sweep away all the fog and dark clouds from the sky and look down, you can see what is going on below. It is a huge deep hole with a diameter of hundreds of kilometers, which appeared in the middle of the mountain range. The magnetic field formed by the surrounding mountains and palaces just completely covers it. I don't know where this deep hole leads to, but you can see it if you look carefully. There are a lot of caves and stairs on the wall of this cave, which seem to extend to the depths of the Earth's core. The deeper the cave goes, the stronger the pervasive magnetic field becomes, filled with an inexplicable pressure. At this time, a figure is rising rapidly from the cave. This is a middle-aged man who looks no more than 30 years old, with a head full of black hair and a jade-like face. He is wearing ancient clothes, which makes him look ethereal and fairy-like. He is very fast, and has rushed out of the entire cave in a breath, and his body is filled with unimaginable magnetic fields. It complements the magnetic fields around him, as if the magnetic field is him, and he is the magnetic field. This is an alternative unity of man and nature, and he is flying with the help of the power of the magnetic field. Soon he broke through the magnetic field barrier outside the Tiandi Shenshan and landed on the ground, but his feet were always 1 foot off the ground. Looking calmly at the distant sky, his mind is infinitely expanding. Crossing thousands of mountains and rivers, he saw the giant tree falling in the sea. He frowned deeply. Just now I felt the fluctuation of time and space, as if something has descended on the blue planet. I didn't expect it to be this kind of extraordinary life form. Since those old guys touched the ruins, this kind of time and space fluctuation is gradually appearing. I don't know what will happen next. Maybe everything is just the beginning. I have to quickly pick up Shen Wuifang. I don't know if he has found the existence that caused the first time-space fluctuation. Things are getting more and more troublesome. Suddenly, his brows frowned, and at this time an extremely evil existence appeared in his mind. Although the other party's breath was extremely restrained, the terrifying magnetic field could not be hidden at all. He looked to the north, and in the ice and snow, a bloody figure without skin was moving towards the interior of H country. He could feel that there was an extremely evil power in the body of this monster. Because this power was too huge, it naturally formed a magnetic field. Although this magnetic field was not controlled by anyone, all the life forms touched by this magnetic field were undergoing mutations. However, he also discovered a problem. The huge evil power inside the body of this evil being was slowly dissipating. This power was being disintegrated by the world. It seemed to be forcibly absorbed by the world. Feeling this strange change, the mysterious man also frowned. Hey, this guy should also be an outsider. The nature of his evil power is different from the magnetic field. And it is rapidly dissipating. This is good news. As time goes by, these outsiders will become weaker and weaker. Then you can catch them and study them carefully to get more unknown time and space information. And their power is also very strange. Maybe you can study it. This mysterious man is a master from Shen Wuifang's hometown. Feeling the two huge magnetic fields in the distance, an idea flashed through his mind. At this time, his mind was constantly sensing the familiar magnetic field. Soon, Shen Wuifang's magnetic field appeared in his perception. Then, the magnetic field around him and the ground's geomagnetic field produced a wonderful reaction. His speed instantly increased to the level of breaking the speed of sound, and his whole body was shrouded in a streamlined protective wall composed of mind and magnetic field. He flew towards the direction of Shen Wuifang's magnetic field. Along the way, he had no intention of hiding himself. In his mind, it was impossible for the humans in this world of mortals to find him. Even if he was found, there was no way to deal with him. At this time, he didn't know that many satellites in the sky had noticed his existence. The air waves brought by the high speed across the sky were very eye-catching. In a few dozen minutes, he had crossed the continuous mountains and came to the vicinity of Jingguan City. At this time, the first wave of huge waves had also reached the borders and coastal areas of various continents. Faced with natural disasters, countless people could only move to nearby highlands as much as possible. Outside Wanjin City, a triangular steel wall structure had been quickly built at the erected steel wall, connected to the circular wall. From the sky, it looked like a cone, and this time the tip was facing the coastline. At this time, a large number of soldiers on the original steel wall were holding their weapons and shooting at the countless mutant corpses inside the wall. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 756. But after these corpses are penetrated and shattered, they will continue to squirm, even fuse with each other, and recover again. The guarding soldiers must continue to use powerful firearms to suppress these strange mutated corpses, or use fire-breathing weapons to burn these corpse fragments. But the hundreds of thousands of mutated corpses cannot all be dealt with in a short time. They still maintain a considerable number and attack the defense line outside Wanjin City every day. This is a life or death competition, there is no other possibility. At this time, the sound of huge waves had already sounded. The people on the wall looked at the huge waves coming from the coastline, and their expressions changed drastically. Under the power of nature, human power is too small. Although this tapered wall structure was completed within an hour, it was only possible because a large number of these special defensive walls were prepared here. This itself is a material temporarily used to cast fortresses during wars, and it is a technological product of country H. Everyone is on tenterhooks. They are all worried about whether the steel wall can stop the waves. The first wave finally reached the sharp part. The tip of the triangle cuts through the incoming waves like a dagger. But the height of the waves was a full 5 meters, almost reaching the top of the steel wall. Huge pressure is created on the sides of the wall. Crunch, crunch, crunch. The friction of metal between walls was constantly sounding. Countless seawater quickly invaded the gaps between the walls. However, compared to the direct erosion by huge waves, the leaking part is acceptable. The ground quickly became wet and water accumulated, and soon there was a foot of sea water inside the wall. The huge waves from the outside world have already passed through both sides of Wanjin City along the triangle. Everyone felt slightly relieved and they blocked it. This temporary steel wall fulfilled their expectations. The most critical part of this project is that there are horizontal supports and steel columns behind the wall, which are deeply inserted into the ground. This triangular steel city wall area was strengthened by using the power of the earth to reduce pressure. Even if there are huge waves outside, the huge force has not destroyed the stability of this triangular area. After the first largest frontal wave is resisted, the waves will naturally start to diverge along the side of the wall. In the end, the safety of Wanjinchinj was saved in this huge wave. It was a 1-hour miracle of incredible engineering prowess. However, at this time, a large amount of sea water accumulated on the ground of Wanjinchinj. The fragments of countless mutated corpses were mixed together under the wash of sea water, turning into a black turbid liquid. The liquid quickly filled all the areas between Wanjin City and the steel city wall. Fortunately, these liquids still seem to be bound by some mysterious force. The blockade of the steel city wall has not been broken, but the liquids are constantly twisting, and it seems that some strange changes are going to happen. And soon this change showed its true face, which shocked those who saw it. These liquids are solidifying rapidly, turning into a network of fine blood vessels, covering the entire ground. The various buildings in Wanjin City are also spread and wrapped by these pipes like roots. In just one breath, the entire Wanjin City looked like a foreign world. There are black pipes everywhere, covering all buildings, so densely packed that the buildings seem to have become nests of unknown creatures. The roars one after another, this terrifying and weird roar, echoed in the sky across the city, attracting the attention of countless people. Wang Jinai on the city wall shrank slightly when he saw this scene. At this time, his mind and the magnetic field merged, sensing the external magnetic field, covering the entire Wanjin city. He could feel a huge world of evil material appearing in front of him. These evil substances produced a weak magnetic field due to their size, which made him feel how evil this magnetic field was. By merging with the world's magnetic field, he can sense the subtleties in this magnetic field. It was evil beyond his imagination, pure evil without any malicious intent. The city itself represents the existence of evil, with the ultimate goal of destroying everything. His heart was pounding. This was no longer a problem that could be solved by personal power. I'm afraid that only by gathering the power of all mankind can this city be completely destroyed, and not a single trace of weird existence can escape. Thinking of this, He immediately looked at the scientist next to him. At this time, many scientists have come to the city wall. The purpose of these scientists is to closely observe the changes in Wanjinchinj and record and analyze the strange existences. At this time, Wang Jinai told the scientist the information he felt without reservation. This scientist is Nan Tuli, a leading figure in biological research in country H. Nan Tuli is an old man in his 60s, but his mind is filled with the most cutting-edge biotechnology research theories and results of country H. He even made great contributions to the study of warriors. They all have their own theories about the life magnetic field and spiritual magnetic field of warriors. After hearing about the current changes in Wanjinchinj, Nanduli's face became more solemn. According to what you said, the entire Wanjin city seems to be becoming a whole. A real nest, a nest that breeds more mutants. These mutant corpses are evolving, you should have noticed these days. The number of second-level mutants has increased. There are even third-level mutants that need weapons such as rocket launchers to destroy them. If this evolution rate continues, there may even be individuals that completely ignore thermal weapons. Today's most powerful weapon is the mother of bombs, which can destroy everything within a range of tens of kilometers. Disintegrate all matter within the range. But this is the last resort. Once used, there will be huge sequelae. And these monsters are inherently immortal. Unless they are completely burned to ashes. This is the mother of bombs, and it cannot be completely achieved. Once there are fish that slip through the net, they will spread outside. Then eventually, these mutant cities will be everywhere. The consequence at that time will be the destruction of the entire world, and no one can stop these terrifying mutant creatures. Our only way now is find the source of this mutation, and then find a drug that can restrain the existence of this mutation. Use biological methods to create special viruses and eliminate them. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 757. Update the latest chapter of the Wanchai View I created as soon as possible. Nanduli looked gloomy. He put forward his own idea, hoping that Wang Jinai next to him could support him. As the God General level beings of country H, they have a huge voice and circle of influence. Can easily influence high-level decisions. As long as Wang Jinai is willing to support him and mobilize some of his friends, the probability of the plan going ahead will be much higher. Wang Jinai nodded when he heard this. Your plan is feasible, but it is not that easy to complete. The city's magnetic field is completely integrated. All evil matter is becoming one. It will become more and more powerful, and it is difficult to say whether a simple virus will have an effect. Nanduli felt an inexplicable urgency in his heart, but I have to give it a try. Wang Zhen nodded, but we must also inform the superiors about this matter so that they can be prepared. If things here are really out of control, then the only option is to build a larger second encirclement. Even the third encirclement, contact all countries in the world, and contribute people and efforts. Then use annihilating weapons to attack continuously. Let's see if we can annihilate all these unknown mutated corpses. When Nanduli heard this, his eyes showed a hint of shock, and he looked at Wang Jinai in disbelief. Is the matter that serious? Wang Jinai nodded calmly. It's more serious than we thought. In Wang Jinai's eyes, he could see the center of this huge city. There is a mass of incomparable evil, darkness, and profound power that is merging into one and becoming the core of the entire city. He had a premonition that something terrible was brewing there. I hope it won't be like what I think, otherwise humans will be really in danger. In the everything room, Lin Yi watched TV quietly. The picture is locked in the sea, where a huge tree, filled with countless gray mist, stands quietly in the depths of the sea. It seems that half of the tree's body has been submerged by the sea water. The upper part of the tree's body, which is tens of thousands of meters high, covers hundreds of kilometers around the sea. The huge shadow made this area of the sea without any light, like a dark abyss. Lin Yi felt a bit of interest in his heart. This giant tree is interesting, you can go and take a look. Thinking of this, Lin Yi's clone walked directly to the door of Wan Chaiwu. He took out the key and easily inserted it into the door lock of Wan Chi house. Click. With the sound of the door turning, a sea breeze blew in from outside. The door of the Wan Chaiwu house is connected to a huge shadow, and 10 meters below is the sea. The area hundreds of kilometers ahead was shrouded in darkness. Thick fog filled this area, and the gate of Anyman did not go deep into this area, because this dense fog seemed to interfere with any door. With the brilliance of his true destiny flashing in his eyes, Lin Yi instantly saw through the fog and locked onto the big tree in front of him. He saw a big tree like the one where the ancient tree king was. It is full of various passages, different time and space, and various living organisms. However, at this time, these organisms seemed to have been stimulated by some kind of stimulation, and they all fell into a deep sleep state, and their body's consumption reached a minimum. In the center of this big tree, there is a group of dark green light. The source of all the energy system of the big tree is in this ball of light. And in this ball of light, he saw an illusory figure. It seemed to be a condensation of souls, or the soul of this big tree. The soul of the giant tree? Then we can communicate. He should be in a difficult situation now, and maybe he can get a lot of good things. Thinking of this, a smile appeared on Lin Yi's face. The instinct of a businessman is to make money. If you smell a business opportunity, it's natural to start taking action. The whole body shone with the boundless brilliance of his true life, and in the next moment, he had already stepped into the mist. In this sea and fog, he was walking on flat ground without being affected in the slightest. It only took him more than 10 minutes to arrive in front of the giant tree. Looking at the diameter of this tree, it is at least 1 kilometer, which is much thinner than the ancient tree king of the dark abyss. The power level given to him by the whole tree is also the immortal level. However, like the creatures in the dark abyss of the ancient tree king, they are only powerful and not immune to physical or energy damage. From the perspective of true cultivators in the Red Lotus realm, this method of only cultivating strength without cultivating realm cannot achieve true immortality. It can only be regarded as immortality. Immortality and immortality are completely different concepts. Lin Yi stood on the surface of the big tree and did not rush into the tree recklessly. However, the power of the mind mixed with its own magnetic field spread out a message and passed it towards the center of the big tree. Hello, respected strong man. I am Lin Yi from Wanchaiwu Vua. I can help you get out of your current predicament. This information quickly passed through the trunk of the big tree and appeared in the heart of the tree's soul. The soul of the big tree is in a state of distress at this time. It felt that its power was rapidly passing away. This world was stealing his power like a black hole. No matter how hard he struggled or closed, he could not stop the loss of power. This is a very terrifying thing, he has never encountered it before. While he was terrified, an indescribable panic rose in his heart. At this time, its roots were rapidly taking root in the seabed. He was struggling to absorb the geothermal heat under the seabed, and after extraction, it was transformed into the most basic primitive energy system and began to circulate in his body. He was taking all the spiritual energy into his soul little by little. Then the other energy consumption of the body was converted into geothermal energy. It became the initial state of its own growth. At the same time, he was also putting all his organs into a dormant state, reducing his vitality to the lowest level. But even so, with all kinds of restrictions, he speculated that he could only survive in this world for about a year. After a year, all his strength would be swallowed up, and not a drop would be left. This world seemed to not allow the existence of energy essence, and he was very scared. Damn, what should I do now? If I continue like this, I will die. The soul of the tree is an ancient existence, and he didn't know how long he had survived in his world. He was also a giant, but he didn't know how he suddenly appeared in such an unknown world. This broke his conventional cognition. Just when he was in a state of panic and felt a huge crisis in his heart. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 758. A wonderful message appeared in his mind. Wan Shiwu Linyi, solve my crisis. Who is this person? Is he an indigenous person of this world? Instinctively, a trace of contempt arose in his heart. What kind of existence is he? Creatures that are unimaginably ancient. A group of people who have experienced countless times and stood at the top of countless worlds. Although this universe has brought him huge threats and made him continue to weaken in this world, he will not die even if all his power dissipates. It's just that it will fall into a state of infinite weakness and can only rely on geothermal heat and the most basic photosynthesis to survive. He has lost 95% of his extraordinary power, but relying on photosynthesis and geothermal energy, he can still maintain his dominance in a world without any extraordinary power. Moreover, its own soul will not weaken and is still extremely huge, although it will increase the burden on the body. He was very amused that a native actually said that he could solve his own problems. But the next moment, a thought flashed through his soul. But the way this man delivers the message touches on the soul level. Since it involves power at the soul level, I guess it is an existence that has mastered the power. It just so happens that we can learn about the power system of this world through him. This ancient existence naturally has a deep understanding of other worlds and unknown time and space. He knows that different worlds naturally have different power systems. If they want to survive in an unknown world, understanding the world's power system is what they must do. Many outsiders have visited his world, and he has also reached other worlds through some methods. Without exception, these outsiders will use a layer of power from the world as a protective barrier in addition to their own power. Thinking of this, it reacted immediately. An old face appeared on the tree trunk where Linyi was. It was the face of a man with a big beard and he looked very old. But there was no kindness on his face, only calmness and coldness. He looked at Linyi in front of him and said indifferently, "You said you could solve my current predicament." A faint smile appeared on Linyi's face. "Of course, I can get you out of this world. To a world of extraordinary power. Free you from the danger of being swallowed up by this world." Hearing this, the ancient face looked at Linyi indifferently. "You are just an ordinary person, although your spirit is very powerful. But in my eyes, you are like an ant. Can you help me escape from this world? It seems to me like a joke. Why do you do it?" Linyi smiled and said, "Why? Of course it's my secret. But in my opinion, you are just a stronger creature. It's not that big of a deal. Looking at how you look now, you definitely won't believe me. But it doesn't matter, you can use this thing to contact me. When you can't hold it anymore." After saying that, a note floated out and landed on the trunk of the big tree. A faint smile appeared on Linyi's face. "Then farewell, strong man from a foreign land." After saying that, Linyi turned around and walked out of the fog without any hesitation. At this moment, a large branch fell from the sky, instantly blocking his way forward. But something happened that shocked the big tree. Linyi passed through the network of countless branches without encountering any obstruction. It just disappeared from his sight without any influence. What power is this? This mysterious big tree felt the shock, and he could clearly feel everything just now. There were no traces of extraordinary power on Linyi's body. But without extraordinary power, he has displayed abilities that only such extraordinary power can display. In this world that swallows all extraordinary powers, this itself has shown Linyi's different reactions. Wan Chaiwu. Linyi? It seems that this person is extraordinary. The tree has age and wisdom, but that doesn't mean it can't adapt. It doesn't mean that he will be stubborn and focus on his own face. Beings of his level only care about one thing, and that is practicality. He already had an idea in his mind. It seems I'm going to visit this person. The note was wrapped by a strange force and pulled to the center of the tree. There, the soul of the big tree looked at the note in front of him quietly, showing a trace of solemn thinking. Is this a weird smell? What's going on? Is this guy related to weirdness? Thinking of this, the face of the big tree soul hidden in the light frowned. The soul of the big tree is ever changing. It has heard countless information about weirdness and has seen a lot. That is the natural enemy of all extraordinary civilizations, no matter what kind of extraordinary civilization they are. There is a danger of destruction when faced with strange things. Even the soul dimension that is said to exist on an unknown level cannot ignore the strange existence. The soul dimension is one of the most powerful extraordinary civilizations that Dashu has come into contact with. He is an existence known as the world tree in his own world, and his power can even affect the rise and fall of his own world. He can even use some wonderful powers to cross the barriers of the world and contact a lot of unknown information and worlds. Among the countless worlds he has contacted, weirdness is a topic that cannot be avoided. He has also contacted weird existences several times. Because it is a cross-world contact, the power he carries is only a very small part, and can even only match the human immortal way. Judging from the results of the contact, weirdness is very terrifying. They have the characteristics of immortality. There is only one way to completely destroy them. That is to constantly crush them in a destructive way and use power to neutralize the weird power in their bodies. It is not an easy thing to finally wipe them out from the world. Weird existences are always listed as the most dangerous existences. Once they appear, they will attract the siege of a large number of powerful people in the world to eliminate all traces. Weirdness is the public enemy that everyone shouts and beats. As long as they appear, no one will tolerate their existence. All existences that can cross the barriers of the world have clearly felt the threat of weirdness. The worlds that were swallowed by the weirdness and eventually destroyed would make these supreme powers shudder. And in this world, he actually got an object that seemed to be related to the weirdness from the hands of a native. This made the big tree soul feel a little surprised and an inexplicable danger. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 759. The latest chapter of the Xuanhuan I created is updated the fastest. Is this guy related to the weirdness? Thinking of this, his heart trembled slightly. In this world that devours all energy, if there is still weirdness, he felt that he might face a catastrophe. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot. Damn, how could this happen? What's going on? Why did I suddenly come to such a weird world? There is absolutely no sign. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind, and his heart was filled with ideas. At this time, Lin Yi had returned to the Wanchaiwu. He felt that the void where the blue star was located seemed to be changing. The light of the true destiny solution flashed in his eyes, and he was carefully spying on the state of this piece of heaven and earth. At this time, in the divine mountain of heaven and earth, under the huge deep hole, there is a brand new world there, with countless mountains and rivers, and huge cities one after another, like another civilization. There is a majestic magnetic field here, the magnetic field of the mind, spirit, and life, which shines in this huge world. These magnetic fields all come from martial arts masters one after another. There are as many gods and heroes as dogs, and there are not a few above them. This is a huge hole with a range of millions of kilometers. All these cities are built around a huge mysterious palace complex. This palace complex is shrouded in a dense fog, and all the palaces are as crystal clear as crystal. It can be vaguely seen that the bottom of the palace seems to be connected to a piece of fiery red magma, like the center of the earth, and the majestic heat seems to be sucked into the palace. The heat is converted into a huge magnetic field under the mysterious structure of the palace. A strange fog is formed, covering the entire palace complex, making it impossible for people to step in. Surrounding this palace complex, there are a total of 9 independent cities, each with a population of millions. Outside the city are countless beautiful farmlands, planted with all kinds of medicinal herbs and exotic crops. It seems to be affected by the huge magnetic field of this world. These medicinal herbs and crops themselves generate weak magnetic fields, resonating with the dead energy around them. These dead energies will be absorbed by the magnetic field into the medicinal herbs and crops. After a series of transformations, they eventually become part of these crops. An ecological environment completely different from the outside world has been formed here, and a new martial arts civilization has also developed to the extreme. In the 9 giant cities, 9 majestic spiritual powers rose and intersected in the void. Something seems to have changed in the mortal world. I feel the changes in time and space. Unknown forces are entering, and the world is becoming unstable. What do you feel? Lord Zhou Tian, your heavenly algorithm searches through the worlds of the heavens. You have the strongest sense among us. Since you have already felt the changes, it should be correct. The world is about to change, and the ruins have also seen frequent abnormalities recently. I am afraid that the things sealed below will also wake up. We must also prepare early, a great chaos is probably inevitable. In the mortal world, we must make arrangements early, after all, that is where we started, the source of everything. Eternal King said slowly, I have sent out several juniors, they will be ready for the front. The red dust world has undergone tremendous changes and developed a power called technology. This is a very powerful system that deconstructs the world from a human perspective. We must regain control of the red dust world. Only by combining the power of the red dust world and the martial arts world can we resist unknown dangers. The underground world began to undergo tremendous changes, and the martial arts masters in the 9 underground giant cities began to prepare. In the red dust world on the ground, no one knew that an impact was about to occur. At this time, not only the divine mountain of heaven and earth, but also the hinterland of the 3 continents of Blue Star. There are also their own mysterious underground worlds, and the mysterious strong men in them have made the same decision. In the ice and snow, a bloody figure came to the outside of a small town. He felt the majestic breath of life in the town. There was a hint of hunger in his eyes, the breath of life, now I'm saved. The next moment, he had already entered the town like a spirit monkey and began to enjoy his gluttonous feast. If a master with perfect spirit came here, he would feel that the breath of life in the town was rapidly extinguished. In a house, a bloody figure without skin stood here. His hand was inserted into a person's body, and countless blood and vitality were drained. The corpse in his hand had turned into a mummy, and finally turned into ashes, dripping on the ground. He was like a black hole, swallowing the last bit of essence in the living body, leaving nothing behind. In just a dozen minutes, thousands of people in the town had all died in his hands. Only countless ashes were left on the ground, and nothing else. Standing in the town, the bloody figure showed a hint of satisfaction on his face full of red muscles. Sure enough, living creatures taste the best. 1,000 people can keep me active for a day. As long as I don't use my strength on a large scale, at least I can guarantee my life. Next, I have to find a bigger city and become the ruler of this world. Only then can I turn the humans in this world into my food. Let them feed themselves. Hee hee, the cold, ruthless, and crazy laughter echoed in the ice and snow. Lin Yi's clone in the Wanchai was sat in front of the French window, and the TV news was still broadcasting the scene of the sea. A large number of fighter planes and warships were approaching the giant tree in the ocean. A private plane landed at the largest airport in Jingguan City. A middle-aged man walked down from it, and he was filled with a sense of time distortion. After getting off the plane, the butler beside him whispered, "Sir, are you going to rest first?" "No, go find that store manager Lin directly. I can't wait to see what kind of person this person is." At this moment, a phone call suddenly rang from the butler's arms. The young butler frowned, took out the phone from his arms, looked at the number, and said to the mysterious gentleman, "Sir, it's Tian Qinghai's call." The gentleman was slightly surprised to hear this, and then he picked up the phone. "Hello, what's the matter?" "Mr. Simon, the latest news from the north. A small town was massacred by mysterious invaders from outside. All the people turned into ashes. The house of everything I created." Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 760. The satellite detected a mysterious blood shadow, an unknown creature that has never appeared before. This creature has a strong magnetic field, even surpassing you or the God Emperor level existence of the celestial clan. It has been listed as a 3s level dangerous species. Tian Qinghai issued an order to summon all God general level existences in the country. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Be prepared to deal with this unknown existence. Please return to Tian Qinghai immediately. The mysterious blood shadow is less than 1,000 kilometers away from the imperial capital. When the mysterious Mr. Ximen heard this, his pupils shrank suddenly. After a moment of silence, "I have to meet someone first, maybe it will be helpful for this incident. Immediately let the people in Tianqinghai temporarily evacuate. At the same time, mobilize the guard team near Tianqinghai and enter the highest level of alert." Once the mysterious blood shadow enters the 500-kilometer range of Tianqinghai, it is allowed to launch large-scale weapons to cover and eliminate the range. "Yes, Mr. Ximen." After hanging up the phone, Mr. Ximen showed a gloomy face. He threw the phone to his butler. "Let's go immediately, we don't have time to waste." The young butler nodded slightly, "Yes, sir." At this time, 500 kilometers north of the imperial capital, all satellites have locked here. A large number of high-end weapons have been aimed at this area. The mysterious blood shadow is already under complete surveillance. As long as it enters this range, it will immediately face a thunder attack. At this time, the mysterious blood shadow, who was constantly moving forward, suddenly stopped. He felt that a huge danger was looming ahead. The more he moved forward, the stronger the sense of crisis became. It was a danger that could cause him great harm. "Is there any danger staring at me?" Thinking of this, he frowned and hesitated. "Forget it, now is not the time to face danger. I have to find a safe place to hunt first. It should be the natives of this world. Have they discovered me?" Thinking of this, he turned and walked in another direction. As he walked away, he felt that this crisis was disappearing rapidly. "It seems that something is really staring at me." Thinking of this, he frowned, because it meant that someone had the ability to monitor him. What on earth can monitor me without me noticing it? With countless questions flashing in his eyes, he looked left and right, up and down. No suspicious existence was detected. Is it long-distance monitoring? That's troublesome. It seems that the power of this world is not as weak as I thought. But it can monitor from thousands of miles away in this world without any power essence. This method is a bit dangerous. Thinking of this, a trace of vigilance flashed in his eyes, and he became cautious about this world. Meanwhile, in the Tianqing Sea, several high-ranking officials of Country H had received news that the mysterious blood shadow was moving away from here. After the mysterious blood shadow entered a huge forest, it disappeared. At this time, quite a number of satellites were hovering over this area, searching for situations within a radius of 1,000 kilometers. At the same time, at least 10 god-level beings were rushing towards the imperial capital. The imperial capital's alert was instantly raised to the highest level, and officials from various regions received the news. They were all very vigilantly watching the possible dangers. Once the blood shadow was found, it would be reported immediately. At this time, in the Wanchaiwu, Lin Yi was watching the TV news and absorbing the latest news. Suddenly, he seemed to have realized something and looked out the French window. A black sedan appeared at the end of the road. On it, Mr. Ximen walked down slowly, and his eyes went directly through the road of dozens of meters and looked at Lin Yi in the Wanchaiwu. He recognized the appearance of the Wanchaiwu, which was the alien creature that had caused a sensation some time ago. It is indeed it. Everything can be explained, an outsider. But since we can communicate, the danger will be much less. Thinking of this, Mr. Ximen has already walked over a few steps. Dong dong dong. He knocked on the door of the Wanchaiwu. Absinthe appeared silently behind the door and gently opened it. Mr. Ximen walked in with his butler. His eyes swept across the Wanchaiwu, and the huge spiritual power was integrated into the magnetic field, and he instantly sensed everyone. One person caught his attention, the Lotus Sword Fairy Li Hualian. His body shook slightly. He had seen the sword calligraphy left by the Lotus Sword Fairy Li Hualian. Now he saw Li Hualian himself in the sword calligraphy, which was simply incredible. Appearance can be faked, but this kind of spirit cannot be faked. A trace of solemnity suddenly appeared in his eyes, rejuvenation, resurrection of the dead. This Mr. Lin seems to be more terrifying than I thought. We must be careful in dealing with him. This thought flashed through his mind, and his eyes saw Sakuramiya Shirley, who was reading a book. From the other party, he felt an unimaginable terrifying power. The huge power formed a huge magnetic field in her body, which affected the outside world all the time. Although this power was restrained in the body, its own quality would naturally affect the outside world. This is the inevitable situation of powerful creatures. They just exist and will affect everything, whether they want to or not. As for the other people in the store, although some people are powerful, he doesn't care, because he can suppress them with a backhand. He asked himself that his spiritual power has reached an extreme. Once he breaks through again, he will enter a new realm. This time he came here, and he may have a further idea in his mind. His eyes finally fell on Lin Yi. Unexpectedly, he only felt the breath of the God General level from this person. But from the reactions of other people in the whole store, the person sitting in front of the French window should be Manager Lin, the person with the highest status here. With this thought in his mind, he came to Lin Yi. "Sir, can I sit opposite you?" Lin Yi looked at Mr. Ximen in front of him quietly. The other party was very powerful. Even more powerful than Lotus Sword Fairy Li Hualian and Shen Wuifang. In the other party's mind, there was an extremely fine Dao mark, which had reached a peak and was perfect to the point where it could not be perfected anymore. Even vaguely, in Lin Yi's eyes, Zhenming Daijia saw an independent illusory world appear in that Dao mark. That Dao mark represented the world, an ideal world. All things in the universe evolve with time, over and over again, and time dominates everything.